Are we waiting to get live on YouTube?
Yes, we are currently live. Good afternoon.
Okay, great.
Finance in New Orleans Programs Committee meeting roll call. Chair Andronika Morris.
Present.
Ms. Giselle Johnson Banks. Mr. Steve Smith. Mr. Edgar Chase IV. A quorum is not currently present.
Thank you so much for that. We are going to go ahead and proceed. This meeting is going to be for informational purposes only, as we do not have a quorum. So we will be moving past items like into the program report. Turning it over to Damon and/or Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly is unable to be with us today, but I'll be providing a report. But to give you an update on the SAC approval, the last communication we received from the Hano staff is that they were in the process of approving it at their board level. And this was at the end of May. So we're waiting on a further update from the staff. We've reached out, and as soon as we get a newer update, we'll let you know. I was pretty sure it was on. I thought it was on the agenda for their last meeting. I thought I saw it on there. Yeah, they just haven't confirmed. They did tell us that. Okay, but you just haven't gotten official confirmation that the board, that their board did approve it. So I'm sure they'll be able to get that to us by our full board meeting next week. So that's fine. And thank you for catching the old business name, and I appreciate that. Yeah, no problem. And they're usually pretty responsive, their staff is. So we should have a response by next week. If not, we'll keep reaching out so that we can get this, get an update for the board. Great. Thank you so much. Now moving on to new business and the programs report. Sure, thank you. So in terms of the Community Support Fund, there's been no activity. We're still evaluating different ways to leverage the Community Support Fund, especially as it relates to needs, soft dollar needs for our programs, soft dollar needs for operations, as well as other community needs. So we'll continue to figure out what's the best way to leverage our resources on that front. As it relates to the Green Mortgage Program, there was no activity there this month. And the report here is the same as it was in the last few months. We're revving up to let the community know that this program is available. And we've started categorizing the different target groups and mediums by which we're going to reach out to the community. And that should stimulate more activity, particularly in the existing homeowner category, which is a new category for us. So we're going to keep working on that front and try to stimulate more activity so that program can reach its full potential. As it relates to the Sustainable Developer Program, there are 52 total projects in our universe, our pipeline universe. 17 of them are active, meaning we have applications that have been submitted to us. We closed the Grove Place project earlier this month. So that's another project that moves into the closed category for us and officially starts the pilot contract. And then we're, of course, expecting Christopher Park to close within the next few weeks or so. We do have to work with Louisiana Housing Corporation on a few other details about getting this project to the finish line, mainly because the developers have had to go back to the Louisiana Housing Corporation to get more capital, more soft dollar capital or gap funding to help get this project closed. Because of insurance, because of the construction costs, the total development cost has gone up. So there's some reconfiguring that we have to do with the Louisiana Housing Corporation staff. We're meeting with them next week, work that out, and we're going to keep pushing to get this deal toward the finish line. Do we anticipate having to change the board having to change some of the deal points, or do y'all think you have enough latitude inside the margins to get it done? Well, it's really a larger dollar amount problem that can then could be
Gotcha.
solved by our program. So, or at least at the present time. So, LAC has the outstanding capital or the extra capital to help move it. And so the issue now becomes, figuring out
Positioning?
like the position of the position of the Finance New Orleans based on the CEA that we did. So the CEA that we did
Gotcha.
a couple of years ago, what it basically says is if Finance New Orleans or a combination of Finance New Orleans, the city, other agencies are putting forth most of the capital, then we'll be the ones to issue the bonds, we being Finance New Orleans. If LAC is putting forth
Right.
most, then they issue the bonds. So as of now, the New Orleans coalition has provided most of the capital, but once LAC puts their capital in, this additional capital, then they'll be the largest provider. And generally that triggers an automatic issuance of bonds. So that's something that we have to work
Right.
out with the staff in terms of how do we move this project forward. The most important
So
part
if that changes, if that changes, then it will be the deal will be different and probably need to be reapproved, correct? If that happens.
well, you've done some approval. You've done the approval of the bonds and the pilot, but the issue then is they wouldn't need the bonds from us anymore. It would just be the pilot.
Correct. Right. So yeah, but just letting the board know that and that the deal has changed. Maybe it wouldn't be a full approval. It's just something that happens and a part of the report out at the full board.
Yes. Now, the first step, we're going to ask LAC to make an exception, and we'll see what type of exceptions they can
Right,
make.
because this will be the first bond issuance we've done in how long?
At least 7 years. So,
Right.
and
So, yeah.
and the bond issues that we've done over time, particularly for multifamily, they've mainly been conduit issuances and have not included pilots and have not been a part of a larger program. So this will be the first bond issuance on the multifamily side that's a part of a larger ongoing program for Finance New Orleans.
Right. The overall new strategy and new mission. So there's, and at the end of the day, what we want more than anything is we want the units, we want the opportunities for the people of New Orleans. But there is a reason the Finance Authority has built out this capacity, and it is to meet the needs of the people of New Orleans. So, the LHC has not been the most consistent, let me say that, the most consistent partner on behalf of the people of New Orleans. And I'll leave it at that. But that's great news, Damon. Either way, that there is hope in the horizon for this much needed project, and that the Finance Authority certainly must take credit for the work that you and your team have done for getting this project to this point. So there's a lot for the team to be proud of.
Thank you. I can also say there are some details that I'd like to dive into. Board Member Morris, you asked some questions last month, in particular inflation, and two separate answers that have come out in the research that we've done, or just in what we've been considering moving forward. So I'll start with single family. On the single family side, we're having challenges as it relates to the pricing of our mortgages. So with interest rates going up, as you know, we've been operating in what's called the TBA market. And the TBA market is not our historical market. We normally operate in the tax-exempt bond market or municipal bond market. And because we're operating in the TBA market, we're not providing below market financing like we do.
Right. We're normally we're competitive. We're not so competitive when we have a low when we have low interest rates. But as interest rates are going up, this would be the sweet spot where the Finance New Orleans could really be again another value add for the community.
Precisely. So there are a couple of things that are happening. One, TBA mortgages are the the cost of TBA mortgages are going up, or at least on the rate side, the absolute prices are going down. And so what that means for us is the down payment assistance that we generate from charging a premium on our mortgages is now starting to evaporate. So there's only so much premium you can charge on the mortgage to begin with, even in a low interest rate environment. That especially goes away when the interest rates start rising, because people are having a harder time paying that higher interest rate to begin with. And then you start adding more points to it for premium that creates down payment assistance, and it becomes more problematic. So there's some challenges that we have to work through if we want to stay in the TBA market, which we do still plan to operate in the TBA market, even with muni bonds coming back. And the muni bond market has not come back completely just yet, but we're starting to see some spread between a municipal bond and the taxable market, which creates an opportunity for us to provide the below market financing. So our financial advisor is paying close attention to when we'll be able to start issuing bonds again on the single family side. In the meantime, the focus has to be on getting the volume up, and we're going to use the TBA market to get the volume up. So we have to work through our issues on the TBA side, and our advisors again are working on some creative solutions like amortizing second mortgages, which could help get us back into the TBA market and allow us to offer the community some competitive products. And then the tax exempt bonds that will eventually be a part of us rebuilding our balance sheet, us creating some stability within the organization, us creating that history of lending to the community on a consistent basis. Those are the things that we're trying to get back to. So there's some hurdles we got to get over in order to reach those points. But all things considered, we have built the infrastructure that will allow those things to happen. Some critical points that need to take place over the next few months are our marketing, the outreach to let people know that the program is available, and then ongoing work with our service providers, the banks that we use, the home buyer educators, the realtors, which we're developing a deeper relationship with. So these are the areas where we're going to spend most of our time over the next 6 to 18 months in order to get this program moving in the direction that we think it can reach. Any questions?
Thank you so much for that. And no, that's exactly what I wanted to know. And I appreciate you all taking the time to do such comprehensive research and thinking about it. And again, it sounds like y'all are not research, y'all were already thinking about it. So just sharing
Yes.
what you were already seeing with us, I think is incredibly helpful because, again, what needs to happen, I think, when we're talking about the current economic crisis and things like that, is that the financial wellness efforts and challenges needs to be properly contextualized. And unfortunately, that does not happen as often as it should. And I'm not talking about from your perspective, for you all. I'm talking about just writ large, the average person, for that matter, the average policymaker often doesn't understand how inflation really works and housing's role inside of the market, and how the plans that this team has spent so much time carefully crafting are going to be interrupted. But I'm also very pleased to hear you all articulate a very clear and cogent strategy to address that, to regroup and to continue forward. It may not look the way we thought it would, but it's still going to lead to success.
Thank you. We'll continue to update you on the various strategies that we can take on to move it. Another thing that can happen, and I had a chance to speak to the City Council's Economic Development Committee today and talk about our RFI and our strategic plan, some of the things that we need from the city to make this successful. The biggest thing we need right now are soft dollars, or dollars that don't have a cost to it, such that we can invest more in down payment assistance. We can invest in a larger second mortgage that will be more attractive to the market, particularly with the below market mortgage. more capital for sustainability. The city is our primary source for that type of funding. The state has some dollars. Of course, there's some dollars out there federally, but the most consistent pool of money is in City Hall. And of course, there are other competing factors and forces that need that money as well: streets, roads, transportation, et cetera. But in terms of community development, the city has been evaluating different ways of utilizing GeoBond allocations to invest directly into housing and more into infrastructure. So the city has already started to look at infrastructure development or financing differently. But the next step is to get a much larger allocation of city resources into gap financing for developers, into down payment assistance for first-time home buyers, existing homeowners, sustainability, the different ways we can utilize that funding in order to make our programs more successful. Otherwise, it's just really difficult to be competitive. So we gotta leverage the public dollars that are at City Hall as much as we can in order to really solve these problems. So that an informal request was made to the City Council today. We've already made the informal request to the Mayor's office, and we're going to go back with a formalized request once we start receiving some input from the request for information that we sent out a couple of weeks.
Gotcha. Great.
And that's really the answer for multifamily as well, which is inflation has affected the cost of insurance, the cost of construction. So there's simply more gap in these affordable housing projects, which are already stretched to the margin. There's even more gap now with the economy that we're in. So one way to solve it is utilizing those city dollars, utilizing subsidy, but subsidy is always in short supply. So there's more fundamental issues that are affecting our market, and we really need to address those on a more systemic level, more long-term systemic level. But in terms of us just getting through the current environment, the current factors that we face on a day-to-day, we need more subsidy dollars. We need more GEO dollars. So we're going to keep fighting for those so that we can make these programs meaningful and impactful for the community.
I mean, we're not going to be able to address the systemic issues without, frankly, a real prioritization of housing. It's just not going to work. A lot of people don't understand that inflation is driven by housing. One of the things that drives it are housing prices, as opposed to the way a lot of people, if everybody, the thing that drives most people right now is how much gas is per gallon. If it drops below $3.50 a gallon, some people will be a sigh of relief and think that we're done. And we're still going to have a housing crisis, and which still makes our economy incredibly vulnerable and unstable and needing some real interventions. And we've got to get our policymakers to recognize that this is a part that investing in Finance New Orleans and allowing it to do its work to create more housing opportunities, to stabilize existing projects, to expand resources is critical to righting the ship.
So more to come on that front. We'll keep plugging away, keep you informed.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that.
No problem. And that concludes we have the pipeline for multifamily, which we can just.
You gave us a summary of where the high level pieces of it were, like the big things that we're talking about, Christopher. Any projects that we haven't seen yet, that any new applications that seem like they're promising?
We're having a lot of good conversations. No new applications at the moment, but there's a lot of good quality projects out there. I can say that some quality projects with quality developers.
Good.
Some of those developers that had that first batch of pilots that we approved, they're starting to come back to us for their second. So those are all good signs.
Okay.
Yeah, those are all good signs. Of course, there's no shortage of need on the housing front. So we really need to get to a point where in this city, where we're developing a certain number of multifamily deals a year. I've had a chance to talk to other agencies, and some of the staff has too. other agencies around the country, just to get an idea of how many deals. So talking to New York, Miami, Atlanta, Houston, LA, and some other places, those are all different places, of course, and different sizes, but they're doing anywhere from 5 to 15 multifamily deals a year. Same kind of deals we're doing, using the same kind of tool and strategy. So, that's a threshold for us to strive towards. We put out information in our RFI, and we set a floor of 5 deals. That's our target. We want to start turning around 5 projects a year on the bond and pilot side. And as New Orleans grows, as it starts to reach its potential, and
that's part of the problem. New Orleans, yes, this is necessary for New Orleans to grow because New Orleans is not growing. So this is critical to the growth strategy.
Amen. And as it does grow, then we'll be able to start doing more deals in that 5 to 10 range or the 10 to 15 range, and have some really good years like you're seeing in Miami, like you're seeing in Atlanta, which, those cities aren't that much bigger than we are. They are at different levels because they have different state structures, et cetera. But in terms of, our weight class, if you will, we can get there. It's just going to take more coordination. The economy needs to agree with what we want to do as well, and that's beyond our control. But the things that are in our control, like coordinating these resources and allocating money in the right place, if we do those in the right way, we should be able to reach that threshold of 5 deals a year.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's critical to be able to work with the administration, with the council, with the state, the legislature, because there are resources, the kind of resources that Finance New Orleans needs to close these gaps that are, some of them, a lot of them are sitting underutilized or not utilized at all. And they're not helping anyone. So your also advocacy efforts, your fundraising efforts are also something that we need to make sure that people understand and are supporting.
Yes, ma'am.
Not just making sounds with their mouths that sound supportive. Actual support.
Check. We need checks.
That's right. That's right. Well, Damon, thank you for that. I appreciate you all pulling that together. That's exactly what I was curious about, and I'm glad to hear that again. One day we're going to get you, I guess. I hope not.
We're getting close.
Yeah, that's right. But again, it's what's going on. And again, like I said, it's helpful to have these conversations in the public sphere because again, the results of the economic crisis as a result of COVID, people are still misunderstanding it. And we need to be able to make our case in as many venues as possible, and certainly inside of our own meeting space.
Well, that concludes the report today. The next thing is the public comment.
There's
All right,
no
well, do we have any
public
public
comments
comment?
at this time.
Okay. All right, then. Well, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting as I'm an army of one here. Jade's not here to tell me if I'm doing this wrong, so I'm just going to do it.
I am here. I'm here, ma'am.
Oh.
You do not need to you do not need to adjourn because you don't have a quorum. And you don't have anyone to
Okay. So we're just gonna leave.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.